The sky above Mars was a deep red, filled with dust and cold wind. At the far end of a rusty space yard stood a strange ship. Small, old, ugly. The humans called it the Pioneer. Aliens from many worlds stood around it, laughing. This is your ship?" one said. His green eyes shone with cruel amusement. A tall blue alien wearing silver armor shook his head. "Humans are truly mad. That thing can't even leave the ground." They laughed, recorded videos, and shared them across the colony networks. "The junk ship of Mars," the headlines said. But one man did not laugh. Captain Arlen Hayes stood quietly beside the ship, his face calm, his eyes sharp. To most people, the Pioneer looked like garbage, a mix of old engines, broken panels, and parts taken from alien scrapyards. But Hayes saw something else. He saw hope. He had built it with his own hands. Piece by piece, year by year. When everyone said it was impossible, he just kept building. His small crew stood beside him, 3 humans and 1 alien mechanic named Kira. Kira was half human, half Zeth, with silver skin and bright orange eyes. She believed in Hayes when no one else did. "Captain," she said softly, "they are laughing again." Hayes smiled. "Let them laugh. When we fly, they will go silent." Inside the ship, everything looked rough. Wires hanging, engines humming, metal groaning like a sleeping beast. But it was alive. The hum of power filled the air. The Pioneer had something new inside it. An engine no alien had ever seen before. A mix of human creativity and stolen alien science. A quantum pulse drive, they called it. It shouldn't work. But Hayes believed it would. At sunset, the red sky turned dark. The alien engineers had gone home still laughing, still joking. But the humans stayed. The launch pad lights turned on, shining on the ship like a spotlight. Inside the control room, the crew took their positions. "Power-up sequence starting," said Kira. The old engine coughed, then roared like thunder. The ground trembled. The monitors blinked red and blue. "Captain, power level rising." "Keep it steady," Hayes said calmly. His voice was like steel, quiet but strong. Outside, the wind blew harder. The alien workers who stayed behind stopped and stared. The junk ship was glowing. Lines of blue light ran along its surface, forming patterns no one could understand. "What is that?" one alien whispered. No one answered. Inside, the ship began to shake. The crew held tight to their seats. Kira shouted, "Energy spike!" "It's off the charts." Hayes didn't move. He looked at the main screen, a bright light forming around the ship. A ring of energy spinning faster and faster. The AI voice spoke. "Quantum pulse drive activated. Destination unknown." Kira looked frightened. "Captain, we don't even know if it will hold." Hayes smiled faintly. "Then let's find out." Outside, the watchers gasped as lightning struck across the sky. The Pioneer lifted slowly from the ground, glowing like a blue sun. The laughter stopped. The same aliens who mocked it now stared in silence. The engines screamed, shaking the air. Dust and fire rose around the ship like a storm. In one last flash of light, it vanished. No one could believe it. The scanners went crazy. The readings showed something impossible. The Pioneer had jumped beyond known space. No alien ship had ever done that before. Minutes passed. Silence filled the air. Then, far away, deep in the black void of space, the Pioneer appeared. It floated alone, surrounded by stars no one had ever mapped. Inside, the crew cheered. "We did it!" shouted one. "We broke the barrier." But Hayes didn't cheer. He just stared at the stars, his face calm. Kira looked at him. "Captain, we made it. Why aren't you smiling?" He replied quietly. "Because something's wrong." The sensors beeped softly. Unfamiliar signals filled the radar. Massive structures ahead, not natural. An ancient station floating in the darkness, cold, silent, waiting. Kira whispered, "Captain, are those ships?" Hayes leaned forward. "No, they're ruins." Back on Mars, the aliens were still speechless. The videos of the launch spread across the galaxy. People couldn't believe it. The junk ship of Mars had done the impossible, and yet no one knew where it went. No one knew if the humans were alive. Only the red dust remained, and the echo of that last sound, the roar of the Pioneer breaking the sky. In the silence of space, the ship drifted closer to the ancient station. Its lights flickered weakly. Inside, Hayes whispered, "They laughed at us, but now they will remember us." He didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. The Pioneer had crossed into a part of the galaxy no one had ever seen, and something there was waiting. Something old. Something alive. The Pioneer floated in silence. Stars shone all around, but none of them matched the maps in the ship's computer. They were far, too far from any known system. Inside the cockpit, alarms blinked weakly. The crew sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what just happened. They had done the impossible. They had jumped beyond known space. Kira finally broke the silence. "Captain, how are we even in the galaxy anymore?" Hayes didn't answer right away. He was staring at the readings. The numbers didn't make sense. Energy levels higher than any human reactor could handle. Coordinates that changed every second. He finally spoke, voice low and calm. "I don't know where we are, but we're still flying. That means we keep going." The rest of the crew moved quickly. Ryan, the young pilot, checked the stabilizers. Dr. Lin, the scientist, scanned the nearby region for life or radiation. But the results only made things stranger. "Captain," Lin said, frowning, "there's a structure ahead. It's massive, metal, but it's dead." Hayes turned his chair. "Put it on the main screen." The image appeared, a dark shape against the stars. An enormous ring-shaped station, kilometers wide, drifting without power. Parts of it were broken, covered in ice and dust. "It's ancient," Kira whispered. "Older than anything I've seen." The ship's AI spoke softly. "Warning, no known record of this object. Origin unknown." Hayes narrowed his eyes. "Prepare for approach. Let's see what the universe left behind." As the Pioneer moved closer, the view became clearer. The station's surface was carved with strange symbols, sharp lines, circles, and repeating patterns that almost looked like writing. But the style was alien, unlike any known species. When the ship reached docking range, the sensors detected something unexpected, energy still pulsing deep inside the station. Very weak but alive, maybe a power core. Kira guessed. Hayes nodded. Or something worse. Either way, we need to know. They suited up in light exosuits and entered through a broken hangar door. Inside it was dark and cold. Their flashlights cut through the dust, revealing huge halls filled with silent machines. Dr. Lin brushed the wall with his glove. "The material's strange? Not metal, not stone. Some kind of alloy we can't produce." Ryan's voice trembled. "Captain, this place gives me chills. Let's just take readings and leave." Hayes shook his head. "No, we came to explore. That's what humans do." In the central chamber, they found something terrifying. Dozens of alien skeletons, thin, long-limbed creatures floating in the air. Each one twisted, burned, frozen in horror. Some had claws, others long skulls with empty eye sockets. Kira whispered, "What happened to them?" Dr. Lin raised his scanner. No signs of weapons. "Looks like radiation. But from what?" At the center of the room stood a tall obelisk, covered in glowing symbols. The lights flickered faintly, like it was trying to wake up. The ship's AI translated part of the inscription. "The Devourer comes, run." The crew went silent. Hayes stepped closer, reading the alien words again. "The Devourer. What is it?" Before anyone could answer, the floor shook. A deep sound echoed through the chamber, slow, heavy, like breathing. "Captain," Kira whispered. Hayes looked around. "Stay calm." Probably an energy echo, but deep inside he wasn't sure. Back aboard the Pioneer, systems started reacting strangely. The quantum pulse drive began to pulse again, even though it was offline. Lights flickered, screens went black, and the AI's voice grew distorted. "Warning. Unknown interference. Source inside the engine core." Hayes rushed to engineering. The engine glowed bright blue, streams of light twisting in impossible shapes. Kira followed, scanning the readings. "This isn't random, Captain. It's responding to something outside." Hayes frowned. "Or something we woke up." Outside the station, dark energy began to gather. It looked like fog, swirling and growing. Then a massive shadow appeared behind it, so large it blocked the stars. The ship's sensors screamed in alarm. "Captain, massive object approaching! Energy off the scale." Hayes ran back to the cockpit. Through the viewport they saw it, a living storm of light and shadow moving slowly, like a creature made of space itself. Kira's voice shook. "That's impossible," Dr. Lin whispered. "The Devourer." The station began to break apart. Pieces of metal spun into the void. "The Pioneer was being pulled by the energy field," Engines online, Hayes ordered. But the drive's unstable, Kira shouted. Hayes clenched his fists. If we stay, we die. If we jump, maybe we live. Do it. The quantum pulse drive flared to life again, brighter than ever. Energy flooded the ship, shaking every bolt and joint. The hull screamed under the pressure. The Devourer turned toward them. A single red eye opened in the void, staring directly at the Pioneer. Captain, the AI whispered, it's looking at us. Then let's show it what humans can do, Hayes said. He slammed the controls forward. The ship exploded with light and vanished just as the Devourer reached for it. Silence. In the next moment, stars appeared again. Different stars. They were safe, for now. The crew sat shaking, breathing hard. Kira looked at the captain. That was madness, Hayes smiled faintly. Madness built the first fire. Madness crossed the first ocean. Maybe that's what makes us human. He turned to the window, staring at the endless stars. Somewhere behind them, in that dark corner of the galaxy, the Devourer waited. And deep inside the ship's engine, the light still pulsed, like a heartbeat. The Pioneer drifted in silence again. The stars outside were calm, but inside the ship, fear lingered. Everyone on board knew what they had seen. That massive creature of shadow and light. The thing the ancient aliens called the Devourer. Kira sat in the control room, watching the faint blue glow of the quantum engine. It pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Captain, she said quietly, the engine's still active. But I shut it down hours ago. Hayes didn't answer right away. He stood near the viewport, staring at the stars. His eyes were tired but calm. He'd seen fear before, but never like this. Dr. Lin spoke from his station. Captain, I've been analyzing the signal we picked up before the jump. It wasn't random, it was calling to us. Hayes turned. Calling? Yes. The pulse from the station wasn't just energy. It was a transmission, Kira frowned. But the station was destroyed. We saw it break apart, Lin nodded slowly. Then why is the signal still here? The Pioneer's scanners started to flicker. Strange coordinates appeared again, the same numbers that led them to the first station. But now they pointed to another location. Another signal? Hayes asked. Kira checked her screen. Yes, but much closer. To a smaller structure, about half a light year away. Hayes gave a slow nod. Plot a course. Ryan, the young pilot, hesitated. Captain, after what happened last time, maybe we shouldn't go near anything. Hayes gave him a small smile. Ryan, history doesn't wait for the brave. It waits for the mad. The engines flared to life, and the Pioneer glided through the stars once more. Hours passed. The ship approached the new signal, another dark object floating in the void. But this one wasn't a ring. It looked like a giant sphere made of cracked metal. Broken panels floated around it, glowing faintly with green light. The sensors buzzed. Dr. Lin frowned. Captain, I'm picking up movement. Movement? There's no life signs. Not life, sir, machines. As they got closer, small objects detached from the sphere. Drones, ancient, silent, drifting toward the Pioneer. Defensive pattern, Hayes ordered. The ship's cannons came online, humming softly. But the drones didn't attack. Instead, they formed a circle around the Pioneer, as if guiding it toward the sphere. They're escorting us, Kira said. Hayes nodded. Then let's see where they're taking us. The ship entered through a massive opening in the sphere. Inside was a vast hollow, a city built inside a planet-sized machine. Towers of dark metal reached upward. Lights flickered weakly like dying stars, Captain. Lin whispered. This place isn't dead. The Pioneer landed on a platform surrounded by strange pillars. When the engines powered down, the silence was almost unbearable. Then the AI spoke again. Connection request detected. Unknown network attempting access. Block it, Kira said quickly. But Hayes shook his head. No, let it through. Let's see who's knocking. The ship's main screen flickered. Lines of alien symbols scrolled across. Then a voice, low, mechanical but ancient, echoed through the speakers. You carry the engine. You woke the silence. The crew froze. Hayes leaned forward. Who are you? We were the architects. We built the barriers between stars. We hid from the Devourer, Kira whispered. They're the ones who built the station. Hayes spoke again. Why did your people die? Because we tried to escape. The Devourer follows power. It follows creation. Your engine burns brighter than any we have seen. The voice grew weaker. It will find you, human. It always finds the spark. The transmission ended. The lights on the screen faded, and the drones around the ship powered down one by one. Silence again. Dr. Lin broke it softly. Captain, that means our engine. It's like a beacon. Kira looked horrified. We're calling that thing straight to us. Hayes stood up slowly. If it's coming. Then we learn why it's hunting. We don't run yet. Ryan looked at him scared. Sir, are you saying we stay? Hayes nodded. We came to explore. We don't stop just because something's out there. They left the ship and entered the inner chamber of the sphere. The air shimmered faintly with green mist. On the walls, holograms flickered to life, showing galaxies being consumed by the devourer, planets turning to dust, fleets destroyed in seconds. Kira whispered, "It eats stars." Whole systems. Dr. Lin touched a glowing panel. The architects must have used this place to study it. Suddenly the floor lit up beneath them. Symbols flashed, and a 3D map appeared in the air. A red line stretched across the galaxy, showing the devourer's path. At the end of the line, a single blue dot blinked. The next target, Lin said quietly. Kira leaned closer. Her eyes widened. That's Earth. Everyone froze. Even Hayes's calm face hardened. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then he said in a voice low and fierce, "Then we stop it. Whatever this thing is, it doesn't touch home." The lights around them dimmed. A deep hum filled the chamber again. The same sound they'd heard before. Kira looked around, panicked. "Captain! It's coming back online. Back to the ship!" Hayes shouted. As they ran through the corridors, the walls shook. Energy surged through the sphere. Outside, the drones reactivated, but now their lights burned red. They're not friendly anymore. Ryan yelled. The Pioneer's engines roared as they took off. Metal debris and drones crashed against the hull. Inside, alarms screamed. Engines overheating. Shields at 40%. Hold it together, Hayes shouted. The sphere behind them exploded in a storm of light. The Pioneer barely escaped, the shockwave throwing it into the darkness of space. When the noise faded, the stars returned. The crew was shaken but alive. Hayes looked at the faint blue glow of the engine again. Kira said softly, "Captain, what do we do now?" He stared at the stars, eyes cold and determined. "We find out how to kill a god." The stars were quiet. Too quiet. The Pioneer floated alone, drifting after the explosion of the alien sphere. Every system was damaged. The hull was scarred. The crew was exhausted. In the control room, only the soft hum of the quantum engine could be heard. It pulsed slowly, casting blue light on the faces of the crew. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Kira broke the silence. "Captain, that thing we saw in the data, it's moving toward Earth." Hayes nodded slowly, his eyes fixed on the screen. "Yes, and now it knows we exist." Ryan, the pilot, swallowed hard. "So what do we do?" "We can't outrun it. We can't fight it," Hayes replied calmly. "Maybe not yet, but we can learn." Dr. Lin looked up from his station. "Captain, the engine is reacting again." Same pattern as before. Energy buildup, growing faster this time. Hayes turned sharply. "Can you stop it?" "I'm trying, but..." "It's not listening." The AI's voice cut through the room, not calm but cold. "External signal detected. Frequency matches prior devourer encounter." Kira's eyes widened. "Here's calling again." The lights flickered. The screens glitched. Static filled the air and a deep sound, low and slow like a heartbeat, echoed through the hull. Hayes stood. "Everyone to stations. Power up shields." Outside the ship, the stars began to fade. A wave of darkness spread across the void, swallowing the light. It wasn't an absence of stars. It was something moving. The crew stared in silence as the darkness thickened, twisting and folding like a storm of shadows. And then, eyes. Dozens of red lights blinked within the black mist, forming a shape too massive to understand. Dr. Lin whispered, "My God." "It's the devourer." It wasn't a creature of flesh or bone. It was energy, gravity, and light, bound together like a storm that had learned to think. Planets could fit inside its shape. Its very presence made the ship tremble. "Captain," Kira said, her voice shaking, "it's scanning us." "Let it," Hayes said, eyes locked on the massive form. "Let it see who we are." The devourer's red eye focused on the Pioneer. Then a deep voice, ancient and echoing, had filled their minds. It didn't speak through sound. It spoke through thought. You carry the fire of creation. It burns bright. It must be consumed. The crew gasped as the voice echoed inside their heads. Rion clutched his temples. Make it stop. I can hear it. Hayes gritted his teeth. You destroy life, why? Life burns the stars. Life spreads the light. The light must end, Kira shouted. Captain, energy spike. It's charging some kind of beam. The Pioneer's alarm screamed. A wave of energy built in the darkness, bright red, growing like the core of a star about to explode. Brace for impact, Hayes yelled. The energy beam fired. The shields flared white. The whole ship shook violently. Lights went out, systems died, sparks flew from the panels. When the glow faded, the Pioneer was still in one piece. Barely. Smoke filled the air. Kira coughed. Shields down to 15%. Dr. Lin shouted, Captain, the quantum core is unstable. It's feeding off the energy hit. Hayes turned to her. Can you redirect it? I think so. But it's risky. He gave a sharp nod. Do it. Kira worked quickly, hands shaking as she rerouted the engine power. The ship's lights flickered blue again. The hum of the quantum drive grew louder, deeper, like a heartbeat speeding up. Ryan looked at his screen. Captain, the Devourer's energy is dropping. It's like it's being drained. Hayes smiled faintly. Good. Let's see how it likes a taste of its own power. He pulled the control lever forward. The Pioneer's main cannon, powered by the quantum drive, charged with blue light. For a second, the ship glowed like a tiny star in the dark. Then the beam fired. A blast of pure energy shot straight into the Devourer's chest. The creature roared, the sound shaking the stars themselves. The black clouds around it rippled, and part of its body tore apart into glowing dust. Dr. Lin shouted, It's working! But Hayes didn't celebrate. He saw the readings. The quantum core's power climbing too fast. If it went any higher, it would explode. Kira! Cut the power. I can't. The core's locked. The AI spoke again. Core overload in 20 seconds. Hayes looked at his crew. We can't let that thing follow us home. Ryan set course away from Earth, full power. Ryan hesitated. But Captain, do it! The engine screamed. The Pioneer shot forward, trailing blue fire. Behind them, the Devourer howled and began to chase, slower now but still coming. The core's light filled the entire ship. Kira shouted, Captain, if it blows, we die. Hayes grinned faintly. Better to die fighting than running. He slammed his hand on the manual release. AI open rear thrusters. All power to the core. On my mark. Acknowledged. He looked once more at the giant shadow in the dark. Mark. The ship dropped a glowing sphere of energy behind it, the unstable quantum core. Seconds later it detonated. A wave of blue fire spread across the void. The Devourer was swallowed by the explosion, its roar echoing through the stars. The Pioneer spun out of control, tossed by the blast. Systems crashed, lights went dark, and the ship vanished into hyperspace, lost again. When the light faded, there was silence. Only drifting metal and starlight remained. No sign of the Devourer. Inside the dark, half-dead Pioneer, one light flickered. The AI's voice whispered softly through static. Captain, location unknown. Crew life signs, weak but stable. Somewhere in the distance, a low rumble echoed through space. A whisper not gone, only waiting. The fire still burns. The Pioneer floated in the darkness of deep space, broken, silent, and scarred. Half of its systems were dead. The once bright quantum engine now flickered weakly, its glow fading like a dying candle. Inside, everything was quiet. Loose wires hung from the ceiling. Smoke drifted through the air. The crew lay unconscious in their seats. The AI's voice broke the silence. Emergency protocol activated. Crew revival sequence beginning. One by one, the pods opened with a hiss. Captain Hayes coughed, gasping for breath. His head spun, but when he saw the cracked window and endless stars beyond it, he knew they were alive. Kira groaned, holding her side. Captain, did we make it? Hayes looked around. We're still breathing. That's a start. Dr. Lin checked the systems. We're far, very far. The coordinates don't match anything in the galactic map. Ryan looked up weakly. And the Devourer? Hayes closed his eyes. Gone. For now, days passed. The Pioneer drifted silently through unknown space. The crew repaired what they could, using spare parts and human stubbornness. Every spark, every bolt tightened by hand. Kira laughed weakly one day as she patched a broken panel. "You know, Captain, they said this ship couldn't fly. Now it's flown farther than anything ever built." Hayes smiled faintly. "They'll need new words for impossible." Dr. Lin looked up from his console. "Captain, I've reconnected the long-range array. We might be able to send a signal." "Good," Hayes said. "Let them know humanity's not dead yet." Back in the known galaxy weeks later, something impossible appeared on alien scanners. A faint distress signal. Origin human vessel. SS Pioneer. The alien councils were shocked. Every report said the Pioneer had been destroyed. No ship could survive the kind of energy it faced. And yet the signal was real. Within hours, fleets from dozens of species began to search. Some came to rescue. Some came to claim the wreck for study. Some came simply to see if the rumors were true. When they found the Pioneer, it looked like a ghost. Torn metal, broken wings, half its hull missing. But its beacon still flashed, still alive. A massive alien cruiser approached, broadcasting in a dozen languages. "Human vessel, identify yourself. How did you survive that explosion?" Static filled the radio. Then Hayes's tired voice came through. "This is Captain Arlen Hayes of the Pioneer. And we don't die easy." The channel went silent. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the comms erupted. Aliens across the galaxy talking at once, shocked, amazed, and afraid. The humans survived the Devourer. Their ship lived through a quantum implosion. They did the impossible, again. The Pioneer was escorted to the nearest neutral station, a massive space dock orbiting a red star. Thousands of ships gathered to watch. Aliens who once laughed now stared in disbelief as the battered human vessel landed. The crowd watched as the ramp lowered. Out walked Captain Hayes and his crew, covered in ash and dirt, uniforms torn, eyes proud. A reporter drone floated near him. "Captain Hayes," it said, "they called your ship a joke. They said it couldn't fly. What do you say to them now?" Hayes looked up at the stars and smiled. "I say they were right. It couldn't fly until humans touched it." The crowd fell silent. Then applause. The sound echoed across the station, a storm of voices and cheers. Even the alien engineers who had mocked him bowed their heads. The junk ship of Mars had become a legend. Later, Hayes stood alone in a quiet observation room, watching the stars. Kira entered beside him. "They're already calling it the Miracle Ship," she said softly. Hayes chuckled. "I like junk ship better. Feels honest." She looked at him seriously. "They're asking for you, Captain. The Council wants to build a new fleet, human-led. They want you to command it." He didn't answer right away. His eyes followed the distant stars, and for a moment he remembered the Devourer's red eye staring at him through the dark. Finally, he said, "Tell them I'll do it. But on one condition." Kira raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" "We build it our way. Human way, no limits." "No fear," she smiled. "That's the only way we ever build anything." As the weeks passed, the galaxy changed. For the first time in history, alien empires looked to humans for leadership. Blueprints for new ships filled the networks, all inspired by the Pioneer. The first of the new fleet was already under construction, larger, faster, stronger. Its name, Pioneer 2. People whispered in every corner of the galaxy, "Never mock a human dream." On the day the Pioneer was retired, it was placed in orbit above Mars, shining like a relic of courage. Children visited to see the ship that shouldn't exist, a symbol of what humans could do when everyone else doubted them. As for Hayes, he stood on the bridge of his new command ship, staring into deep space. Kira walked up beside him. "New engines, new weapons, new everything," she said proudly. Hayes smiled. "But the same old madness," she laughed. "Wouldn't be human without it." The captain turned toward the stars. "We've beaten the darkness once, but the Devourer's still out there. And next time it won't be waiting." The AI's voice spoke softly. "Captain, new signal detected. Coordinates unknown." Hayes grinned. "Then we go find it." The fleet engines roared to life, lighting up the void. The Pioneer 2 and her sister ships leapt forward, leaving a trail of blue fire behind them. Narrator, closing tone. "They laughed at our ship. They mocked our dream. But now that dream rules the stars. Because humans don't give up, we rise. Years had passed since the Pioneer first flew beyond the known galaxy. Captain Arlen Hayes stood on the bridge of the flagship Pioneer 2, staring at the endless stars. The galaxy was not the same. Humans were not the same. Once they had been laughed at, weak, undeveloped, ignored. Now humans were respected, even feared, by alien empires. The fleets Hayes commanded stretched across trade routes, borders, and star systems. The Pioneer 2 was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol, a reminder that humans could achieve the impossible. Kira stood beside him, her silver eyes reflecting the glow of the stars. "Captain," she said softly, "the Council reports that the alien empires are ready to recognize a human-led alliance fleet. They're waiting for your command." Hayes turned to her, his face calm but proud. "Tell them," he said, "the humans don't ask permission to lead. We ask only to survive and to rise." A young human officer approached carrying a holoscreen. "Sir, a new signal just arrived. Unknown origin, strong energy readings." Hayes smiled faintly. "Of course. Space never stays quiet." Kira raised an eyebrow. "Another devourer?" Hayes shook his head. "No, something new. Something we will face and win." The galaxy remembered the first Pioneer. They remembered the little junk ship from Mars that had defied every law of physics, outsmarted the devourer, and returned home alive. Now, the humans had fleets of their own design, ships faster than any alien craft, weapons that harnessed the power of stars, and minds willing to risk everything for discovery. Every corner of the galaxy whispered, "Never underestimate a human dream." Back on Mars, the original Pioneer rested in orbit, polished and preserved as a relic. Children came from all over to see it, to touch it, to dream. Some asked about the devourer. Some asked if the humans would ever meet another threat like that. All were told the same thing. Humans do not give up. We rise, we fight, we survive, and sometimes we fly where no one else dares. On the bridge, Hayes gazed at the stars again. The young officers were ready for their first missions. They looked nervous. They looked unsure. But he remembered how he felt the first time he powered up the quantum pulse drive. The fear, the excitement, the impossible hope. He walked to the main console and placed a hand on it. "This is your galaxy now," he said quietly. "Make it yours. Build it, protect it, and when others laugh at you and laugh louder, prove them wrong." The human fleet leapt into motion. Engines flared, blue trails cutting through the void. Alien empires watched in awe as humans commanded the stars, not as invaders, not as conquerors, but as pioneers, leaders, and creators. Hayes looked toward the horizon of the unknown. He knew more threats would come. He knew dangers far greater than the devourer lurked in the dark. But he also knew humans would face them, because humans were stubborn. Humans were clever. Humans never gave up. The fleet entered hyperspace. Stars blurred into streaks of white light. The crew worked tirelessly, but their hearts were full of hope. The galaxy would not forget this day, and somewhere in the dark corners of space, the signal of human ingenuity, of courage, curiosity, and defiance, and shone brighter than any star. Hayes stood silently on the bridge. He whispered not for the crew but for himself. "They laughed at our ship. Now it rules the stars." The AI's voice replied softly, almost like a friend. "Captain, the galaxy is yours." Hayes smiled. For the first time, he allowed himself to relax. The humans had survived. The humans had won. The humans, the smallest species on Mars, now ruled the stars. Narrator. Closing voice cinematic. They laughed. They mocked. They doubted. But humanity does not ask for mercy. We do not bow. We do not hide, we rise. We fight, we endure. And one day, we rule the stars.